All of us are trying to go out of our way to eliminate unneeded, unhealthy sugar from our diet. But at the same time, it seems like all the big food manufacturers are trying their damnedest to hide sugar in our food in quantities that is seemingly ever increasing. What's going on here? In this video, I'm going to tell you about 7 seemingly healthy foods and drinks that you would think from the advertising that should be very healthy for you and your family, but in fact, they contain sugar, either blatant or hidden. Let's go through this list, and then at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you all 127 different sneaky terms that the big food manufacturers will use to hide sugar in their franken food. I'm Dr. Ken Berry, a family physician. Let's go on a food journey. I'm going to give you a heads up about each one of these 7 categories. Then I'm going to include a very popular option within these categories. The first category I want to look at is protein bars. Now, this is a pet peeve for me because if anyone's eating a protein bar, then they're at least trying to do better for their health. They're trying to get more protein in their diet, even if it's highly processed, hard to absorb protein that is in most protein bars. But they're trying to do better. They're trying to eat healthy. So let's take, for example, and in each of these different categories, I'm going to use a very well-known and trusted brand and to show you an example of just what's going on here. So in the protein bar category, let's talk about Nature Valley's protein bar. It actually has nature in the name. Very healthy, has to be, right? So 140-gram Nature Valley protein bar contains 8 grams of sugar. That's 2 teaspoons. But look at the ingredients. They use some obfuscation to distract you. So they list sugar as the 3rd ingredient. But then if you keep reading, you see corn syrup, which is pure sugar. Then you see fructose, which is pure sugar. And then down at the very bottom, they use the ubiquitous label of natural flavor, where they can also hide more sugar. The next category of foods we need to be very aware of are green smoothies, especially if you buy one of these at the supermarket. And I'm going to use Naked's Green Machine as a very popular example of this. One bottle is 15.2 ounces. And if you're drinking Naked's Green Machine, you're really trying to improve your health. But it has 53 grams of sugar per serving. And so 1 teaspoon of sugar is 4 grams. So you can do the math and see how many teaspoons of sugar are in each Naked Green Machine. And so the way they hide the sugar is by calling it fruit juice. If we look at the ingredients it contains, you would think this would be mostly vegetable since it's green, but it's not. It's mostly concentrated fruit juice. It includes apple juice, mango puree, pineapple juice, banana puree, kiwi puree, and then again, natural flavors. And so this is basically a bottle of sugar water. The next category of foods you got to really watch out for and read every single ingredient on the label are sauces. And this can be ketchup, honey mustard, ranch, barbecue. Any sauce is suspect until you have become an ingredient detective and made sure there's no sugar in your sauce. So for the example of this one, let's take Heinz ketchup, probably the most iconic sauce in the world that literally everyone puts on their food. You would think it's tomatoes and ketchup and water, but you'd be wrong. So when we look at the nutrition facts, we see that there's 4 total grams of sugar per tablespoon. Now, do you just use 1 tablespoon of ketchup? Be honest. And then when we look at the ingredients, let's see what kind of reindeer games they're playing with the ingredients. So we see high-fructose corn syrup. And then the next ingredient is corn syrup. Both of these are pure sugar. And then down at the bottom, again, we see natural flavoring. That's a very popular way for the big food corporations to hide hundreds of different ingredients that they just rather not list separately on the label. And that natural flavoring bait and switch is going to continue until federal law changes and makes big food manufacturers put the ingredients, the full ingredient list, under the word that says ingredients. So you should basically call this sweetened ketchup because that's what it is. The next category of foods you should be very, very careful with is nut butters. I can remember when I started my paleo diet almost a decade ago now, I used to eat the heck out of Justin's almond butter because I thought that it was super healthy. And I trusted the brand. I trusted that nut butters were healthy. And it had never occurred to me initially to turn it around and read the label. Had I turned around the container and looked at the nutrition facts, I would have quickly discovered that there's 6 grams of total sugars in each 2 tablespoon serving. And I promise you, I always ate more than 2 tablespoons per serving. And so then when you look at the ingredients, sure enough, the second ingredient is organic powdered sugar, which is made up of organic cane sugar and organic tapioca starch. Tapioca starch is another common way that big food manufacturers will hide sugar because starch is just long chains of sugar. And so when you chew the product, the starch immediately breaks down in your mouth because of an enzyme known as amylase. And so it makes the product taste sweet, sweeter, but they don't have to put all that sugar on the label. The next category to not blindly trust are the non-dairy milks like soy milk, almond milk, cashew milk. I've even seen hemp seed milk at the health food store. I used to drink lots of Silk almond milk, and I really like the vanilla flavored one. If only I had just turned the package around and read the nutrition facts, I would have seen that there's 13 grams of sugar per 1 cup serving size. And so how do they get away with this? How do they hide the sugar? Well, they call it cane sugar. That somehow must be better than just regular sugar. It's pure sugar. And then also at the very end, you see the ubiquitous natural flavor. That's how they hide the sugar so that you think you're drinking something that's very, very good for your health. The next category of foods to watch out for are the salad dressings. Now, some of these have a little added sugar. Some of them have a ton of added sugar. You got to watch out. And in this example, I'm going to be talking about Kraft, their classic ranch dressing, which who doesn't love ranch dressing? So if you flip it around and look at the nutrition facts, you see that it's got 1 gram of sugar per 2 tablespoons serving. And then when you look, they're just blatantly obvious about it. They say sugar. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4th ingredient. The last category I want to inform you about is frozen dinners and frozen entrees. I picked a very popular example. This is Healthy Choices beef teriyaki. Now, beef and teriyaki, I mean, that doesn't really sound like a sugar coma, but you're about to find out that it is. How do I know that Healthy Choice is healthy? Well, it says healthy right there on the front of the box. But now that you are an ingredient detective, you're going to flip that box over regardless of what it says on the front, and you're going to look at the nutrition facts, and you'll find that this Healthy Choice has 12 grams of sugar per meal, and these meals are very tiny. Back in the day, I could eat 3 of these without blinking an eye. And then when you look at the ingredients list, I want you to really pay attention to this. This is how they do it. So we see caramel color. Now, caramel is just brown sugar. So unless they somehow chemically extracted just the color without the caramel, that's sugar. Then we see dextrose, which is another name for sugar. Then we see maltodextrin, which is just another name for sugar. Then we see further down brown sugar. Oh, it's brown, so that's not as bad as white sugar, right? Then further down we see pineapple juice concentrate. And this is a very egregious way to trick people because you think, well, pineapple's healthy, isn't it? But any fruit juice is just sugar and water. And when you concentrate it, that doesn't mean that it's going to be more water. That means there's going to be less water, therefore more sugar. So that's just another way of putting sugar. Further down on this list, we see just blatant sugar and then again, natural flavor. So if you have stopped eating your previous diet of Doritos and Ding Dongs and Pepsi Cola and you've tried to start eating healthier, but you chose things from these food categories, you can see that in one meal, if you drank a green smoothie and had a frozen entree and then had a protein bar, you could literally be getting 20 teaspoons of sugar in that meal. You might as well have just stuck with the Doritos and the Pepsi and the Ding Dongs, right? This is why it's so difficult in our modern society to eat more healthy, because it's what I call a false choice. We all know the Ding Dongs and Doritos and Pepsi Cola are bad for us, But we trust the food companies, especially if they're marketing their food as healthy, like the green juice smoothies and the protein bars and the nut butters. We just expect that they also value our health and are trying to help us get healthier, but they ain't. What they're trying to do is achieve something called a bliss point, which is a chemically engineered sweet spot in the human palate, where there's just enough salty, just enough sweet, and just enough crunchy, just enough chewy, so that you can't stop eating their product. They are trying to make millions of dollars. They're not trying to improve your health. Now, I'm going to put up this graphic, and I found 127 different names that the big food manufacturers can give sugar so that it doesn't just blatantly say sugar. I also put it down in the show notes below. I want you to become an ingredient detective, and every time you pick up a food that comes in a package, whether a cardboard box or a plastic bag, immediately you're going to ignore everything it says on the front of the package. You're going to flip it around, look at the nutrition facts, then look at the ingredients before you ever put that in your cart, because your health is more important than Kraft and Heinz and Kellogg's profits. Your family's health is more valuable than money in the bank. So you have to make these choices wisely and circumspectly, or they will fool you every time. They'll hit the bliss point. You'll overeat the junk food that they just faked you out and sold you as healthy, and then you don't get any healthier. If you have a friend or a family member who is currently a victim of the false choice scenario that I described earlier, please consider sharing this video with them so that you and I together can turn them into ingredient detectives as well. This is Dr. Barry. See you next time.